LIMS is used to do sample tracking, LIMS is used to do inventory management, this and that. But in very short, what LIMS is when we ask this question, so we can answer it this way, right? That LIMS, it's a tool. It is used to log samples and it is used to enter results and it's used in the reporting of these results. So of course, we are talking this in a very simplified way. Actually, this is a very simplified description. So it's just like telling that the job of a lab is to perform tests, right? But yeah, this is in very short what LIMS is used to do. Okay, so why the need of LIMS came later? So earlier, prior to 1980s, we used pen and paper for all the laboratory calculations, for all the sample tracking, for entering the results for the samples. So we used all pen and paper, but going ahead, maintaining this huge, repositories or files of papers became difficult. And there used to be, this papers, wherever this data used to get stored in these papers used to get damaged, torn down, or so the need came for, calculating, for automatic calculation instead of doing this manually, and then, storing this in computerized systems as digitization came. And it slowly progressed, and PCs and mini computers and microcomputers and mobiles came to our hands. The need came for digitization, so came LIMS, and with time LIMS developed. Now, what is LIMS? I said you what is LIMS, but now if you want, LIMS in more depth, so what LIMS is used to do is it is used to effectively manage sample and associated data. I mean, not only the sample, but also all the associated data related to the sample to improve your lab efficiency. So automate workflows. So in lab, we perform specific processes. So for those specific processes, we create workflows in LIMS, and those workflows we automate in LIMS. So every kind of LIMS has its own module for automating the workflows. So I'll be discussing about workflows on LabVal LIMS in my later sessions. But in this session, we are just discussing about the basics of LIMS. So integrate instruments. So whatever instruments we use in our lab, whether it's for integration, whether it's for passing, we use LIMS for integrating the instruments as well, and also managing the sample. Uh, Produce accurate, reproducible results faster and more reliably. So accurate and reproducible results. So we can produce accurate results, but how can we produce accurate result? That comes into the question. So one fine example I can give is like in LIMS. For example, for result accuracy, we can select till how much decimal places like we need to show the results. Okay. And whether we need to round the result values or not. So even we can customize like whether we want to show out of specification values in a particular color, or I mean the specification values, if it is within a particular limit, it's customizable. So makes data from sequencing runs easier to store, track, and assess over time and across experiments, evaluate and improve operational efficiency. So now how LIMS works, or now basically we need to see, first of all, we create the master data. Okay, we create all of the static data, master data, be it product, be it analysis, be it components. Once those are created, now we create the lots, then we receive the sample. Once we receive the sample, we allocate the work or allocate those samples to the respective analysts. So each analyst has its own, his or her, or has its own role, and they do capture the results or they enter the results in LIMS. Okay, then at the back end, if there are calculations, those calculations are triggered. They enter the values for the tests and the the calculations are done and the values come up in your result entry. And then once all the results are captured, there is some approver in the lab. There is who can cancels, accepts or rejects those values. They check it thoroughly whether those values are within spec or out of the specification limits. So once after they approve or reject it, the reports are generated. So even for generating, there are a lot of generating tools and softwares which are being used. For example, in LIMS, we use reporting tool known as Crystal Reports, which is created by SAP. Different types of LIMS. So in the market is very competitive. So we do not only have Labware, but we also do have LabVantage, we have Thermo Fisher, we have Caliber, we have StarLIMS. Labware, for example, so each of them are built on different platforms like different programming languages. For example, LabVantage is basically built on Java. If you come to Labware is built on an old programming language known as Smalltalk. So just a small question to anyone. Have you heard of this programming language Smalltalk?
No, sir, we were not here, but here samples in the sense only pharmaceutical samples are in IT, or it is in logistics, or what? Samples in the sense what?
Uh, Samples in the sense means
Samples in labs. Sorry, LIMS we are using in different sectors, right?
yeah, yeah.
Am I right?
In all the sectors, you can tell anything is a sample, right? Even in pharma and
Yes, yes,
biotechnology,
that one.
even if it is a blood sample, it's a sample, right? Anything is a sample, right? Even
Yes,
if you take a sample for water, right? For environmental
yes,
monitoring or from
yes, yes.
anywhere from your
That is my
surroundings,
doubt
that is
actually.
also a sample, right?
Yes,
So LIMS is not only used in the pharma sector, right? But it's used in the biotechnology sector. It's used in the chemical and petrochemical sector also, right? In the food and beverages sector.
yes, yes.
Okay, it's used in your commercial labs also. So Labware is built
This
even
this languages is mandatory, sir. Or this languages is mandatory to learn
the,
the to
okay, yeah,
this activities.
I'm coming to this answer. The languages is like, so see, for performing basic admin activities, you don't need to know the language, but for some automation tasks, okay, now if you want to do some heavy automation on the tool, some heavy automation integration, right, preparing scripts, right? So you need to know this language, right? Because LabVantage is built on Java. So you need to know Java. Now Labware is built on Smalltalk, but you don't need to know Smalltalk because Labware uses its own scripting language, which is known as LIMS basic. Okay, so you need to know those scripting language for automating, right? So, for example, Starlims uses .NET. Thermo Fisher Scientific, I think it's sample manager. It uses C Sharp. So at least you should know the basics. Okay, even if you don't know the functions, you won't be able to write the codes. You understood? You need to automate the calculations, right? So I think I was able to answer your question, right?
So we are not developers here, or how? We are doing development also in this
We are
after
not
learning this
developing
course.
the tool. We are automating certain processes which, if the client asks us, we need
Okay.
to automate. This includes certain configurations as well, which does not need coding knowledge, and some coding as well. For example, let me take an example of workflow, right? You are someone, the client or someone from the pharma company, for example, some XYZ client or anyone asks you to prepare a workflow. You create a workflow, but to automate certain message boxes, certain processes in the workflow, you need some coding. Without those coding, it won't work. Okay, so for those, you need to have some basic coding knowledge. Now it depends on what kind of work you are doing in LIMS. Are you doing some basic admin processes, some lab analyst kind of roles? Those are, for those kind of roles, you don't need coding, right? But if you are taking some developer kind of role for LIMS, where you are doing some configuration kind of thing, absolutely yes, you need to know some coding.
So here, which limbs we are learning about? Means here Thermo Fisher we are learning, LabVantage or Star limbs. So that supporting language you are telling knowledge is required. So which one we are learning about here in LIMS course?
I believe we'll be learning about labware LIMS going ahead.
Lab LIMS.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay.
What is the language that Caliber Technologies use, sir?
I'm not sure of because I did not work on Caliber Technologies LIMS, so I'm not sure of the language.
And
Even
in
apart from
lab,
this LIMS, there are many type of LIMS tools. I believe someone else was speaking.
and lab, sir, in which language technology use?
Yeah, I said right. Labware uses small talk.
Small talk.
Yes,
Okay.
there are a lot of LIMS softwares, right? So they are built by different vendors, and each has its own programming language, own technology, right? So I know only the programming language of these few LIMS, but there are a lot of LIMS as well. So no, okay. So so how do I choose the LIMS vendor? So see, different kind of LIMS is built on different programming languages. This is one point. Okay, different LIMS has different kind of architecture. Some are web based, some run in your system. Okay, different type of LIMS has different kinds of UI. Okay, so based on all these inputs, the vendor is chosen. Okay, so for example, here, if we talk about web-based LIMS, so web-based LIMS is 100% web-based application. So you don't need any installation of software on the client side. I mean, you will go to a web page, enter your credentials, and log in. So environment, right? Uh, LIMS has different environments. So if you talk about, but first of all, before coming to the environment, so LIMS is coming under category 4 as per GAMP5. So uh, what is GAMP? So in a nutshell, GAMP is an acronym. So it is used to summarize the term good automated manufacturing practice. So I believe all of you have come across this term, right? Good automated manufacturing practice.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I mean, these are a compilation of recommendations or rules which are published by the International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering. So it is called ISPE. Okay, so it's in the form of a book to provide guidance to companies on, you know, on this softwares, how to do the validation of these softwares, how this software should be. So it comes under category 4. So I believe there are around 5 categories in GMP5. So category 1 is OS, category 2 firmware, 3 standard software, 4 configured software, and 5 I think is custom software. So this comes under configured software, category 4. So in category 4 you also have ERP as well along with LIMS. But coming to environment of using LIMS, so there is one development environment, right? Where you do the development, you create the code, you do the testing, you create the master data, and you see everything is working properly or not, right? You don't directly go to the production, right? First, you do the testing in development, right? Because if anything goes wrong in production, directly if you do the development in production, and if anything goes wrong, uh, the, I mean, the client or the pharma companies, they won't accept it, right? So you first do the development in the development environment. So there is another environment known as static environment where you create the static data. So actually, the boundaries or gaps between the development and static environment is kind of mixed up. It's not very clear because there may be some pharma companies or someone who will be using both one environment for both development and static. Now there may be some other pharma companies or someone else, some petrochemical companies who may be using separate development and static. It depends on the requirement and the costing and how they want it, right? So you have your development environment, you have your static environment, wherein static environment, basically static environment means what? You create your static data or master data, right? Which changes but which does not change so often as your dynamic data, right? So your analysis, product, sample plan, item code. So going ahead, being a lab by LIMS trainer, I'll teach you what all of these terms are in the later sessions. But just remember, all of these are static data. So this is a part of static data. So many vendors, or I mean many clients, they wanted that this static data be created in a separate environment. So you have static environment. So you have validation environment where absolutely your testing of all modules and functionalities is done. And finally, you have the production environment where finally all of your testing and everything is done. You migrate all of those data to your production environment, and even in production also, after migration, one final round of testing is done and everything goes into production. Okay, there is one more environment which sometimes the client uses, I mean separate environment they create, which is known as the training environment, where in that environment they used to train the resources on the particular tools. Okay. So now you have a different type of module. So LIMS is a very big tool, right? Any type of LIMS, if you see any kind of COTS LIMS product, for example, LabVantage or LabWare, they have a lot of, you know, modules, right? So you have the lot manager, which is one module. You have inventory manager. Okay, in lot manager, you can create the lots. Okay, and the samples are logged. And in inventory manager, you manage the inventories of your standards, the reagents. Okay, instrument management, you have, you can manage the instruments, the parsing of instruments and how the instruments are connected to your LIMS through instrument management. Okay, stability management. Okay, then you have environmental monitoring, as I said, where wherever for the labs you monitor the environment, right? Wherever the analysts come, their immediate environment, they should be, certain labs, they need to be in a sterile environment, right? So to monitor the surroundings, how much of your surroundings is, what is the purity, or how much of your microorganisms are present in the surroundings, they do this environmental monitoring. So they have this separate module for EM. Okay, then micro inventory management is there. So there are separate modules. Even there are some more modules, for example project management modules are there. Then you have folder management, where you know uh, place the samples or tests in certain folders. So you have different kind of modules. With as time progresses, these softwares, they are upgraded and more modules are added to your software. So there are a lot of modules. We have named some of these here. So just remember that each LIMS tool, or every LIMS tool built by the best vendors, has a lot of modules, and inside those modules we have a lot of sub modules.
Sir, excuse me, sorry. Sir, here module in the sense what?
Module in the sense means, for
Module,
example,
it's a developer it will create or ourselves.
no,
So,
no, no, no. The modules will be created by the vendor and they will give you these modules. You will go inside these modules and you will do your work.
so in that what we are creating or what we are doing, actually module in the sense what? How it will be actually? I don't know what is module. How will call it as a
I
module?
will I will
So in that
explain you
module,
each of the modules going
it
ahead.
will come. It
Okay,
will
in a
come.
lab.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, each of the module has its own function. If you want to do tests for environmental monitoring, you can go to EM module. If you want to do stability testing, you need to go to the stability module. If you want to work on lots, you need to go to the lot manager and create lots. If you want to work on with batches, you need to create batch manager. You need to go to batch manager. You understood, right? Now,
Yes, sir.
if you,
Yes, yes.
so going ahead, see, module is a very big question. What each module is a separate topic, you know.
Yeah.
It's
I'll
a
tell
very
you in
in-depth
a
topic.
simple language. Module means you can consider like a software menus and sub menus. Okay, this will be considered as a modules of a particular software.
Yeah, can I
Okay. Okay.
yeah, adding to that, sir, see, when you will log in your LIMS, no, like your tab will come like a menu bar. In that, you can get like what you told, like some menu, like folder management, instrument management, sample manager, and folder creation. So, he said, no, like all individual icon will having specific like functions. Folder management, you can like you can scan samples or like inventory management or instrument manager. So, as he said, like individual icon having individual space, nothing but that is like even individual modules, right?
Yes, yes. For example, you can say workflow is also a separate module in LabVal. So there are menus, there are sub-menus, right? Each module is arranged in the form of menus and sub-menus, right? Every software has modules, right? That each is designed to do one specific kind of procedure. We'll in the later sessions we'll surely dive deep into what each modules are. Okay, so no need to worry.
Excuse me, sir. Actually, I want to know this modules are demand of means clients. Like on that basis, we will create that
Okay. Oh
module.
yeah. Okay. Okay. See now there. If I take example of LabVal LIMS, now there are a lot of templates. LabVal LIMS has the template which we mostly use in the pharma industry is the pharma template. Now, for example, the client will go to Labware and they'll tell that okay, I have a pharma company, so Labware will tell okay, this is your pharma template. So pharma template has those modules which the pharma companies mostly use. Now, if you want that I want some extra modules or I want certain customization for myself, then they may add certain modules or they may change the database fields, how the database are built so that they can work with those, right? So going ahead, I'll also explain this in the later sessions, right? For example,
Okay.
result, right? While you enter values for the sample, one small example, right? That sample has a lot of field, right? You may tell sample number, sample name, there are a lot of fields. I just said you two fields, right? But for example, your client comes, okay, and says that no, I need one extra field. Then what we can do that is that we can configure it through table master. There is one option. We can configure and we can add one more field in the table. Got it, right?
Okay. Okay.
But what we are touching is like today is the starting day. So this is just, just a very brief discussion we are doing, but surely I assure you that we'll dive deep going ahead. Oh, okay. So we said about master data and going ahead, LIMS roles like so you know about the roles like right that you have analyst, you have supervisor, you have reviewer, okay, from the quality assurance, from the quality control, you have inventory manager, system administrator. So while you log into any kind of LIMS, right, mostly they will give you ID, you will give your password, and it will ask for the role, right? If you have access to only one role, by default you will have access as that role. If you have access as multiple roles, you will have access to those roles. You select each role, but the point is, what difference does this make in LIMS for the roles, right? See, each role may have, for example, one one particular role may have access to only specific modules, right? And one particular role may not have access to other modules because we need to restrict the access in LIMS, right? We cannot give access to everyone to all the modules, right? Because that's not necessary. We don't want to tamper the data. So what these roles give you restriction that you can do only certain tasks, or maybe you can only cancel the samples. Maybe you can just enter results. The approval will approve. The analyst cannot approve or reject the samples. So what these roles are like, these roles help you to segregate what tasks you can do in LIMS. Also, it helps the admins to check, right, what each role is doing or what each user is doing, what each user has access to. So these roles are very important. So going ahead, we'll also discuss these roles. Being a LabVal LIMS consultant, I'll discuss about LabVal LIMS, which are there in the users table. We'll discuss about the table structure. So these roles are, there are certain tables, right, where these user details are stored and those roles are tagged to those users. So for the time being, we can just remember this. Of course, in our labs, we have these roles, but in LIMS also we have the roles, right? So how the roles are built in LIMS and how each user has access to, certain kind of tasks and how each user does not have access to certain kind, does not have, we'll discuss that later. Okay. So costing, right? Costing is a very important thing in LIMS, right? Because LIMS is eh, most of the LIMS which we use in the market, these are quite costly tools, right? So the costing needs to be done. So what is the initial cost? Initial cost is your cost for purchasing of system, okay, including suppliers implementation time, because the supplier does not directly come and they don't directly install or give you the software, right? They need to ask you what kind of table structures you are needed, or what do you need, what kind of modules you are needed. So even so it takes time for the vendor as well to implement the LIMS in the client system. So it takes a considerable amount of time. So for that, even they do the billing. So that is also, that should also be considered a part of costing, right? And also the internal training time, okay, implementation and validation time cost. So internal training is very important, right? Because uh, you know training needs to be done, right? There are different kind of LIMS, right? For example, if that particular client used one LIMS earlier and now they are changing or migrating to a new LIMS, of course, whoever the starting from the analysts to the developers or whoever is new to that LIMS, working for the client, they need to learn, right? And mostly the client has to provide the training. So either they provide the training or the vendor provides the training on their behalf. So for this, the costing factor is also, I mean, this should also be a part of costing, right? So when you do assess the cost, everything should be considered. Okay. So you have the maintenance cost as well, which comes in the annual cost. I mean, because maintenance for software needs to be done, right? I mean, there is I mean, the support comes into picture. There is the license as well, if it's individual or, I mean, group license. Okay. So yeah, so that's what. However, the real benefit of that statement just got down, but what they used to say, this statement, I believe it was telling, is that the benefit of using LIMS in the long run is, even if the costing is high, the benefit of using LIMS in long term adds quality, and it's far better than our papers, right? The paper systems, I mean, the pen and paper system which we used earlier, this is far, far, far better, because here you can monitor everything. Of course, your the LIMS systems which are created by all the good vendors, they are GXP compliant. The auditing is done, everything is monitored. You cannot just go and change your data or modify your data. So all of the major LIMS built by the best of the vendors are they do conform to the rules and regulations set by the FDA or EMA, or whatever you say, the regulatory bodies. So of course, yes, even if you consider the costing, uh, it's not, you know, it's most of the time maybe it's not pocket friendly, but yes, I in the long term, it gives you benefit. So risk, there are many projects actually, okay, because due to functional time budget constraints, uh, which even you may notice, right? Many projects are cancelled because what happens is that we may start a project thinking this in mind. For example, you take example of data migration. We may perform some small mistakes. Now there are many in LIMS, many modules, many table structures are interrelated. Maybe for one small mistake, you come back and you need to change so many things, and that takes time. So prior to initially assessing and discussing and creating the master data and everything, prior discussion is very important, like how should we go ahead, and proper training and proper knowledge in whatever LIMS you are working on is very important, so that if initially you make a small mistake going ahead, those same mistakes you do, and those are copied in all the environment and table structure. But when you catch the mistake in the long run, that's very late, or you need you just took 5 seconds to do that mistake, but to rectify it you took 50 hours. So uh, things needs to be kept in mind. Okay, the scheduling, the budgeting, okay, customization, how much customization is needed, what all integration is needed, okay, what all instruments are you need connected to your LIMS. So all of those are needed. Okay, so proper planning before starting of the project is very important, because again, going in the long run, either your project they get extended for the long term, or somewhere down the line they get cancelled. So this actually, what I mean to say is that these risks should be kept in mind. Okay. So key messages: good information management system will ensure all data, the final product of laboratory is well managed. Confidentiality and privacy of patient information. Yes. Incorporate all the laboratory business processes as part of the system. Assure accessibility, accuracy, timelines, and security of data. Streamline sample tracking and sample workflow in clinical laboratory. So, all of these processes, okay, be it your tracking of the sample life cycle, okay, or chain of custody, okay, whatever it is, or your workflow, or whenever that data was entered, capturing the time in your audit trail, okay, when did it get changed, who changed it, okay, so confidentiality of data, okay, so all of this needs to be kept in mind while creating a LIMS tool or LIMS application. And the vendors, all the big vendors, they have kept this in mind, and they have prepared these tools in a quite good and efficient manner. So that's where the our LIMS comes into picture, right? And that's why this beats your paper-based system, right? What we used earlier. And so the digitization is coming, right? And so we can hear like all the pharma companies, be it the petrochemical companies, whatever it is, the tobacco manufacturing companies, whoever it is, they are moving to LIMS. Everywhere you will be hearing LIMS in the pharma industry, or in whatever it is, LabVal, LabVantage, Sample Manager. These are mostly heard of. So this, what I said you earlier was the same thing, that you receive the sample, you allocate work, okay, then you do the testing. After the testing, your validation is done, then you do the approval, reporting is done. After reporting is done, after a certain time, you do the archival of your data, okay, because you don't need redundant data for so many days. Maybe the client fixes, maybe after 6 months or 1 year, or whatever be the timeline, you go ahead and do your data archival, because the maybe the older static data or older uh, values for results entered are no longer needed. So you store those in in your servers, in specific places, in specific locations, specific folders. But this needs to be remembered that this should be retrievable. Even if you are archiving it, they should be retrievable, as when any time when the FDA or any of the regulatory authorities or auditing comes up, you should be able to archive it, and you should be able to tell when did I store, where did I store, what were the data which got stored. So functionalities of LIMS, LIMS does a lot of functions. Okay, even if we take a pen and paper and we try to note down, they do a lot of functions, which I have said you. But again, audit management, yes, we know of. Barcode handling. So I mean, if you place the barcode, right, I believe many of you have worked, right? If you place the barcode reader, directly the sample number will come up and show up in your LIMS. Then chain of custody, compliance, customer
Yes.
relationship management, document management. Because yeah, barcode handling is a very important thing which LIMS does. Instrument calibration and maintenance, yes, of course. Okay, workflows, traceability, time tracking, reporting, quality assurance and control, method management, manual and electronic data entry, inventory and equipment management. So first of all, okay, now this the basic functionalities, what it's written here is that the reception and login of a sample and associated customer data. Yeah, we do that, right? While we receive the sample and log in a sample, who received the sample, okay, in which location was it received, assignment, scheduling and tracking of the sample. Then after we receive it, to whom we are assigning the sample, who is entering the results. After that, After that, one analyst may enter the result for some of the for some of the values for some of the tests, and some other will enter for some of the tests. This is also done. Okay. After that, the quality control is done, or then the reviewer or approver, whoever it is in the lab, they do check whether it's within limit, out of limit, whether it's out of control or not. They check, and then they either to approve it or reject it. Then the storage of data associated with the sample analysis. Oh yes, of course, all the data, metadata associated with the sample, associated with the test, associated with the result, right? Because if you look into the structure, you have sample at the top, below the sample you have the tests, and below the tests you have the results, right? So all the data associated with the sample analysis and result, those are also stored in LIMS, right? Because those needs to be stored. For example, your result, right? If your result is a text type, if it's a numeric type, you are entering a text value, numeric value, or note, just a note, or if it's an automatic value which is calculated. So all those data is stored. Inspection, approval, and compilation of the sample data for reporting of further analysis. Yes, after it's approved, after it's done, you can also create report, right? You can create the report as per your needs, right? How you want to show the report. If you want to show the reports for this samples logged between these dates, or you want, I mean, you can customize the reports, right? So this is how the creators of the specific LIMS tools has built LIMS in such a manner that it can be highly customizable, at least to some extent from our side. So advantages of LIMS: very fast report access and queries. Yeah. See, one more thing which LIMS handles is that most of the good LIMS is that you can write queries, right? If you want to search certain data, you can either do it in the search manager, or you can write queries for which you need to have certain idea of DDL commands, data definition language, certain basic queries. So if you want, maybe we can come later to those topics. So what I saw in Lab LIMS is that you have separate module where the data explorer or the stored query manager, where you can write queries and you can fetch, right? That if you need certain details of certain samples logged by certain analysts within certain dates, belonging to certain kind of labs in XYZ location, you can write queries very fast, and those queries are fetched very fast. You get the results very fast. Okay. So yeah, reduction in paperwork, improved data quality, reduction in errors, of course, improved operational efficiency.
Sir,
Simple,
coming to this
useful.
DDL language, whether we are going to give some training on this?
If you want, maybe I can discuss and we can. Language means what language you are talking about? Can you come back again?
This is related to the SQLs because the data we are going to fetch from the LIMS. Maybe SQL is required for to fetch the data.
I maybe if on demand, maybe I can give some basic SQL trainings. Okay, so that you are I see. I am a level LIMS consultant, so I'll if you want, maybe we can discuss later about the level LIMS table structures and some basic SQL statements. Although this is a very big topic, right? This alone is a
Yeah,
topic
yes,
which
yes.
is very big, if you know, because joins will come, in SQL, so many things will come. But yes, at least yeah, I can show you some of the basic, how can you fetch result number from result table or result details from result table? How your sample table, test table, result table. See, these basics at least I can show you, right?
Because sir, if we are going to join in this course, we should get some benefits in point of the recruitment. Means the companies who has
No, no, sure, sure,
recruiting
sure,
the,
sure. I will touch those technical aspects. You don't need to
yeah,
worry about this. I will touch about the static data, about how some table structures are linked. Even if I have time, maybe I'll discuss about some LIMS basic formulas, LIMS basic code,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that, because these are the first question in the first question which the interviewer will ask you is that, do you know LIMS basic? Do you know some of the function? At least tell me two or three functions.
Yes, correct,
But see,
correct.
these are very big topic, right? LIMS basic is like, if you don't have hands-on, it's very tough to explain you, right? You will understand this, or those who work on lab LIMS. But I will try to give you some idea at least, right? So that you are you like the way I'll give you the idea is that you won't have that fear that no, I don't know anything. So I'll just give you some basic idea about some of the LIMS basic statements, and maybe when we'll use them. and some basic queries or commonly used queries which we use lab by LIMS. Of course, we'll discuss this. You don't need to
Yes,
worry about.
yes. Okay, okay. Thank you.
So yeah, coming for disadvantages, I said you right. Training, time to adapt to the new system, the costing. Okay, you need backup system. Okay, so see, wear and tear, right? Be it your paper, be it your hard disk, or be it your server. So anything get damaged, right? So disadvantages also come into the picture. So, so coming to the conclusion, this is what I have said you. This is what LIMS is, and yeah, going ahead in our future modules, we'll be discussing about lab by LIMS modules. Maybe I'll touch a bit about the table structure about lab by LIMS, a bit about some basic LIMS basic codes, a bit about queries. What queries are mostly used in lab by LIMS. Maybe we can touch a bit on workflows, mm, about a bit of static data creation, analysis, sample table, result table variation. So we'll touch everything one by one. Um, yeah. So any questions?
Sir, other than pharmaceutical industry, what are the other industries that LIMS is used most often?
What I've heard of and what I've known of is that apart from the pharmaceutical industry, in the petroleum industry, we also do use, right? Okay.
Okay,
And in the tobacco industry also, we use that. This is what I've
okay,
heard of. Okay.
okay. So in the class, you are going to teach about the only labware LIMS, right, sir?
Myself being a LIMS consultant, I know LIMS, so I'll be able to teach you end to end on LIMS. But one thing to tell
Okay,
you, right, that
okay. That means we are
LIMS.
going to, yeah,
No,
that means we
let
are
me.
going to learn small talk.
No, let me complete. See,
Please, please, sorry.
yeah, LIMS. Now, if you consider all the LIMS tools, and if you Google it, LIMS is the, it has the greatest market capture in the pharma industry.
True, true.
So, anywhere you see each and every client, even if they use some other kind of LIMS, maybe they are using LIMS as well. Okay. One more
Yes.
point is that small talk, no. I said you right. It uses Labware is its own scripting language which is built on small talk. It has its own function. So even I don't know small talk. We are not able to
Okay,
see how the code is built at the backend using small talk. But yeah, we use LIMS basic code, LIMS basic function. Okay. Those
okay,
as it's see they use their own custom made functions, maybe using small talk. Okay. We don't know how they use those functions, but those functions are
okay,
used as a part of LIMS basic. So in order to automate Labware LIMS from your end, you don't need to know
okay,
small talk. Just for the
okay.
sake of your knowledge, you need to know that Labware LIMS is built on small talk, because many will ask you the question that, okay, you are talking about Labware LIMS. Do you know in which programming language is it built? Right?
All right, I got you.
Correct, right?
So, yes, yes, true, sir. So also about the databases, what is the query language that we use generally regarding the databases?
No, query, the relational database, we use simple query, right? You can use
Okay,
stored or, normal query.
okay. So is it the SQL is used
Ah,
often
yeah,
or
SQL. Yeah, yeah, normal. I'll show you. Normal SQL.
okay,
But
okay,
the complexity differs, right, on your need. I mean, what kind of query you need or what kind of output. I mean, the client may tell you to make one, the requirements are maybe such that you need to create three joins
okay.
for one query, right? But that
Yes,
is one separate topic, right? That is one very big topic. Query itself
true.
and table structure itself is a very big topic in lab values.
Okay. Regarding the admin activities in Labware LIMS, any special or particular language is there, or what is the thing they use?
They don't use any language or things. See, admin activities means basically what you see, creating users and giving access to those users, right?
Yes,
Giving
yes.
the roles, what roles are. So mostly those things are in your users table only. There is one table.
Okay,
You go to that table and you create the users. You give the password. You give them the roles. You give them the functions. Okay.
okay. So to solve the bugs in the in the Labware LIMS, what is the language they use?
Solving the bugs in lab volumes, they don't use language. See, that's what, right? Solve the bugs
Okay,
means already there are some custom-made LIMS basic codes created by the client, right? Those are used for pharma template. They are used by your by LIMS, right? For level
Yes.
LIMS, they are used for automating the process. For example, if there is something wrong, if they want certain modification, you need to go and modify those. The same thing,
Yes.
LIMS basic code, which I am telling. There is in level LIMS, there is nothing apart from LIMS basic code in
Okay.
order to
Sir, what
change.
format templates you are using? Whether this is the part of this our courses? Means how to develop these pharma templates and how
No,
to.
you don't need to develop the template. No, the point is, level LIMS is a COTS product, right? It comes in different template. The pharma template, you have certain modules. Certain modules are not there. Some other template will have certain modules, not some other modules are not there. So in the pharma industry, mostly we use the pharma template. So it's not we won't be developing the pharma template. We would be showing you how
Yeah,
level
yeah.
LIMS work and how
Yeah,
it
sir,
works.
correct, sir. If you are going to prepare one STP for a standard test procedures for any XYZ materials, so we have to develop the templates, the calculations and all that we have to load in the
Yeah,
LIMS
yeah.
again.
That's a different template. See, pharma template is different. Like when you talk about level LIMS pharma template, that's different. Right? That's the software template. You
Oh,
understood?
yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
by the
This
vendor. We
software
are talking about
templates.
something different.
So whether is there a part of this course for how to prepare the that software code and software templates? So is will be any there demo or something like that? So that.
The point is, one thing which we should remember is that I can show you demo, but the point is, see, LIMS is level LIMS is such a tool, or most of your LIMS by the big vendors, right? You
Yeah.
won't get any pirated copy right here, to be very honest, or you won't get any
Yeah.
courses
Yes.
right in YouTube anywhere.
Yes.
So if I show you, I won't be able to show you hands-on. Maybe with the
Yeah.
limited
Yeah.
screenshots, whatever I have.
Okay. Okay.
This is one
Huh,
more
that
thing.
will also help. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that will
yeah,
also,
yeah.
if you show
See,
us, then that
if
will also
I
be
would
helpful
have
to us in
access
the
to level
futures.
LIMS, I would have shown you hands-on sharing my screen, but that is never possible. That is one impossible thing. So let us not discuss about something impossible, right? Which all of you are, know of. So the possibility is that I can tell you like this verbally through slides, and maybe I'll try to explain you verbally only, maybe with some screenshots. This is what I can do best from my side, right?
Okay, sir, what topics will learn in this course end to end completely? What will learn the topics in this course actually?
I mean, mainly we will learn about the, you know, how the static data is built, what is the dynamic data. Okay, maybe the basics about some modules. We'll learn about
Crystal.
workflows. We'll learn about with instrument integration. See, Crystal report is another thing. I can teach you Crystal report, but another point with Crystal report is, Crystal report teaching is like, I can teach you Crystal report connected to LIMS only when I log in at the backside of the server, right? The Crystal report software. So again, teaching you that hands-on is quite tough, right? You understood?
Yeah, actually, what contents we are learning in this course that I want exactly. So, as a
Hello.
LIMS course,
I
what we
think
are
I think
learning?
Madam can tell you. Madam
Yeah,
is there.
we'll provide the brochure,
Yeah.
sir. Just send me a hi message from my WhatsApp number. I will provide the brochure.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Okay.
One more thing, sir. In this labware version, which version we are going to learn, and training is based on this PPT presentation
Recently,
or
recently,
through
recently, the
software
latest one
demonstration.
is version 8. But the things which we'll be teaching you, right? If it even if it's version 6 or version 8, it won't make much difference, right? There are some changes, but such in-depth changes. I mean, see, query manager, LIMS basic, those are same for both version 6 and version 8, right? Just some basic changes in the UI, right? So mostly
Yes,
these PPTs
but
will
you
be
will
there.
give only PPT based training, or you log into software and you will show demonstration
I
regarding
won't be
master
able to
data
log
creation.
into software and show demonstration. That's very tough. Only the pharma companies which have access, and directly your pharma company can show you that direct demonstration, right? Because they have access to LIMS, level LIMS.
And this certifications, what we are expecting at the end of this course, whether it will be certified from the labs or it is from only Company Connect.
I think that Madam will be able to answer you this question.
Yeah. We will provide ISO certified certifications.
So what will be the durations for these courses?
It's a 1 month course, sir.
1 month. Yeah.
Yes.
Sir, could you please
Hello.
explain about the job roles and the in the various companies about this labware?
Uh, Speaking about, if you go into the IT companies, what they do is that data migration, right? It's master data creation. After creation, migrating data from one environment to other. Then coming up ahead, some other companies, you might work as a support analyst. Okay, you will provide support for the tool. You will resolve the tickets. I mean, either it will be minor customization of LIMS basic code, providing access to certain users, working with servers. Okay, if you again, if you go to some other companies, you might be creating some projects might be only for workflow. If you go to some other companies, it might be only you are working on reporting tool and you are creating reports. So very vast thing, right? And there are a lot of roles.
The
If
solving the
if you
tickets,
directly
which
work with a pharma company, no, I'm talking about the IT here. If you directly work with a pharma company for this tool, you may be working as an analyst, right? Entering the data, entering the value, or you might be working with labware, or
yes.
you might be working with the IT companies, and you might be giving them the requirements that we are not able to do this, or please help us do this. So different kind of roles, right? Now, if you are working at labware itself, then you will be directly developing.
Okay, regarding the solving tickets, what is the backend software they use?
There are a lot of tools, right? They use Remedy, they use ServiceNow. Each kind of client uses each their own ticketing tool, right? A lot of
Okay,
ticketing
okay.
tools are coming up, right? You cannot just tell one, but they'll train you. Each of them will train you their own way. I mean, almost all of them are same. The procedure is same, but there is difference within the UI, and some differences are
Okay.
there, right? Like the differences
Yes,
you see
yes,
in Advantage, Labware, and LIMS tools, right?
yes.
Different vendors means different UI, different styles.
So you said labware has its own language. Is it very tough or easy one? I mean the code.
Very easy. See, nothing is
Okay,
tough.
okay.
Nothing is
No,
tough.
if it is, I mean, I'm talking about. I mean, can I compare it to the JavaScript or a bit less?
Can compare, but see, JavaScript is something completely different, right? For developing web pages, even
Yes,
you use
yes, yes,
JavaScript and CSS in Labware LIMS as well for creating the workflows. I mean, workflows means web view pages, right? In your workflows, whatever you
yes,
see the
yes.
workflows, right? You see the icons, so they use the JavaScript. That's a separate topic. But the point is, you cannot. It's similar, but it's easy. If you know the function
Okay,
names and what function is used for, I mean, it's not comparable. You cannot compare like JavaScript with. But if you compare level LIMS scripting language, LIMS basic code with Java,
okay,
LIMS basic code is easier than Java. This is what I can tell you.
okay, okay. Thank you.
Sir, one thing I want to know during this course and finally means after completion of this course, we can able to create means we can have the knowledge about to create how to handle the ELNB, how to create the ELN, and how data has to generate or input like that things we can cover. No, means I mean to
I'm
ask
not
that.
sure ELN is a part of this course or not because ELN is another topic that is electronic notebook, right? Electronic laboratory notebook. You're talking about ELN, right? That's a
Yeah,
separate
yeah,
part of LIMS and
yeah.
it's a very big topic. Okay. That, I believe that showing you on slides won't be enough, ELN. So I don't think we'll cover ELN here because that, as said to you earlier, LabWell LIMS is a very, very big, even, LabWell LIMS is connected with SAP, right? The Crystal report. Crystal report, if you look into Crystal report PDF, it's around 1,500 pages big. So that's another big, each is a big topic.
Okay. So basically, we are covering the basics tools like
Yeah, the
what is
static data part, maybe the modules,
yeah.
maybe the workflows, basics of instrument, because that if you want to learn those things, maybe it will be a 6 month to 1 year course because you understand, right, how much complicated it is.
Yes. And means if you will learn these things, it will be helpful to the means like ELN post process and all.
So the
Uh,
point is, what we'll teach you here is that it will help you going ahead, go diving deeper. If you want to alone dive deeper, you will be able to join the dots and understand, right?
okay, 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 fine.
LabWell LIMS is such a big tool that 1 month, what even the senior consultants who are working for 8 years, 10 years, they don't know everything about LabWell LIMS. You will agree to this, right? Or whatever it is, LabVantage or StarLIMS, the tools are so big. So covering everything in 1 month is not possible. But yes, we'll cover in such a way that you won't fear lab LIMS going ahead, or you will be able to join the dots.
Okay.
While something is happening, you will be able to join the dots. Just
So
making
now
your basics strong.
about hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Now we are discussing about the labware LIMS. So if every company no need to buy and no need to implement labware, some people will Caliber also implement. So how can we implement Caliber? If any process is there, if anything is, will explain regarding that in this section.
I'm not sure if this will we'll consider, because I am not a Caliber consultant, so I am not sure if we'll cover that or not. But I'm not sure about that, because each tool has its own type of implementation, right? Each LIMS is built differently. So I'm not sure if you can talk to
That is
Company
only.
Connect
So,
Consultancy. If they want to take some Caliber LIMS courses, maybe they can schedule it for you. Maybe some other consultants may come to you, but maybe I'm not the right person to answer you this. So I think madam is there. You can ask madam this question, right?
Sir, after completing this course, what roles will get, career, how it will be, and any placements you are conducting for these, and what packages will get.
I see placements not. We'll have one mock interview session, mock Q&A session. I'll ask questions. We'll try to answer. If not, I'll give you the answer. But I'll cover most of the courses which will help you strengthen your level its basics at least. So I'm not sure if placement opportunities will be provided or not. I'm just the trainer. You can talk to madam for this. I think I'm not the person who will be able to answer you this question.
Actually, will not assist the placement. Just end of the sessions, we have one mock interview class, and after that, we'll provide the certifications.
Okay.
What is the Company Connect provide to you? Just benefit to join our institute, access to study material for 1 year, and 2 or more batches. You can join with the same fees. Only just you have to pay one time, and you can join 2 or more batches. Recordings of classes will be available to recall and create your own notes. And member chat areas available to chat any of company's students. You have a group chat on site to get all the answers to your questions even after you can complete your course. It's a lifetime member chat areas available, so just you can connect with us and you can chat to any candidates with any time. And what course the Company Connect will provide it, so that computerized system validation course, combo of clinical research, CDMS, pharmacovigilance, medical writing course, pharmacovigilance plus clinical research group, CDMS plus clinical research group, medical writing plus clinical research, certified pharmaceutical quality professor, pharma engineering professional, pharmaceutical GMP. And just you can contact us. For enrolling the course, you can contact this contact number, and then a fresh batch will be starting from the 17th December. This Saturday will start at LIMS classes. Okay, so just do the registration and you can join these courses. Okay.
Ma'am,
Thanks
one
to
more
all.
thing.
Mhm.
Ma'am, one more thing. Are you providing the upgraded resume for the existing what we have the resume? You can upgrade and give us the resume according to the LIMS.
Yeah, we'll provide sample resume. After completing the course, we'll provide a sample resume. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
Okay. Thanks to all for the joining. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.